Hi everyone, this is the literal equations worksheet review. Remember, a literal equation is primarily with variables. Alright, so there are all variables there, a couple of numbers here and there, but remember, when you're solving, it's not like solving a traditional equation that we're used to solving with numbers. There are all variables here. All right, so let's get right to it. And number one says x plus a equals b. So just remember, if you're solving for x, you could circle the x. I like to put an arrow right above what I have to solve for. It just helps me understand what I have to get alone at the end. So what you have to do is subtract the a from each side. Remember, you're using inverse operations to get that variable alone. X equals b minus a, and that is it. K is your answer there. All right. Solve for x, and I'm going to put a little arrow right above there. That's what I want to solve for. So at the end, I know that has to be the letter, the variable that is alone. So I am going to start moving things away from the side where that x is, and I'm not going to worry about the a times x right now. I am going to take this positive b and move it to the other side. So subtracting b on each side would be a good step. The b's cancel, and we are going to have ax, nothing left on this side, equal sign comes down, c plus d minus b. So now I still have to get the x alone. So the one thing that I do want you to understand, opposite of, you probably know this already, the opposite of multiplication is division. So when you divide, you're dividing by the variable that you want to cancel, or variables that you want to cancel. The one that you want to solve for, you're not going to divide by. So remember, I want to solve for x, I'm going to divide by a. And I'm dividing the whole side by a. The a's cancel, and you're left with x equals c plus d minus b over a. So that is g, c plus d minus b over a. Move this down and put G. All right, and that is your answer. Let's go on to number 3 to solve number 3. All right, for x. And I'm going to put a little arrow right there for the x that I want to solve for. So I am going to take this minus 5 and basically move it over to the other side. And I do that using inverse operations. You add 5 on each side. This cancels, and I have bx equals c plus 5. The last step, remember, I want to solve for x, so I need the x alone. The last step is to actually divide by whatever I want to cancel, and I want to cancel the b. So I have x equals c plus 5 over b. C plus 5 over b is 5 plus c is j. Same thing, because addition is commutative. So for number 4, I want to solve for y. If you want, you could press pause now to try the problem and then watch the review. You can press pause and try the problem now. Okay, so I'm going to put an arrow right here to make myself understand and aware of that I want y alone. Remember what I told you before, this is all multiplication here, b times y times x. I want to divide by the variables that I want to get to cancel. And in this case, it is the b that I want to cancel and the x that I want to cancel. I'm going to divide by that on both sides. Once I divide by b and x, the b's cancel, the x's cancel, y comes down equals 36 over bx, or xb. So L is your answer. All right, any questions there? Not that you could ask me a question, but we'll go on. Number 5. If you want to try both of these problems right now, you can press pause and then watch how we do the actual problem, see if you're correct. You can press pause and try both of these problems now. Okay, so after pressing pause, hopefully you did solve both of these. You want to solve for x. I'm going to put a little arrow above this x, and I am going to divide by. Right now it's solved for s, by the way. I'm going to divide by the number that is next to x because I want to solve for x. So the 4's cancel, x equals s divided by 4, and that is your answer. S divided by 4 is that answer, and D is your choice there, the letter. All right, and let me get that out of the way. And now we're going to solve for x for number 6. And I am going to put my little arrow right here just to make sure that I know that I have to solve for x. What is on this side right here? Remember, on the left side you have this cx, but we're not going to touch that first. We are going to get this negative d over to the other side of that equal sign. So I am going to use inverse operations and add d on both sides. Once I add d on both sides, this cancels. Cx comes down equals 4 plus d. I'm still not finished. Remember, I have to solve for that x. One more step and you will solve for x. Remember, you divide by whatever you need to cancel, and you're going to divide by, in this case, c on both sides. The c's cancel, x comes down equals 4 plus d over c. And just looking for that, it is each. All right, and number 7 and number 8, go ahead, give them a try. You can press pause and try the problems right now. So, number 7. Number 7, you have to solve for y. So I'm going to put that little arrow right here just to remind myself, and I know I need this x all the way over. Remember, I'm not touching the sy yet. I will, but I'm not going to touch it yet. So I'm going to subtract the x on both sides, subtract the x on both sides. This cancels. Sy comes down equals t minus x. I still didn't get y alone, but s times y, the opposite, inverse of multiplication, is division. So I'm going to divide by s on both sides, divide by s on both sides. This cancels, y comes down, which is what you wanted. You wanted to solve for y, you did, t minus x over s. And that is f. Let me just inch this down a little bit. Nope. Okay. So that's F. Not too bad. The second one, solve for X. All right. So this can be done in one or two ways. You can either, right now I'm looking at this X, and I think I'm just going to distribute. Because I want to solve for X, I'm just going to go ahead and distribute. Let me just get that out of there. There's a lot of arrows going on. There's a couple of ways, but let me just do it this first way. So I'm going to distribute. Then I have M equals 2X plus 2N. This is one method. All right, since I have to solve for X, that's the X right here. I'm going to minus the 2N from each side. And this cancels. Then I have M minus 2N equals 2X. Since I want to solve for X, I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. So what happens here is that the M over 2, this is the division right here, and I'm going to put that as a fraction. Because this negative 2 divided by 2 turns out to be a negative 1, and negative 1 n, like you put that n, don't forget about that n. That negative 1 is there, but you don't need it because you have the n there. And it's like a negative 1n, but you're not going to put it. You're not going to put that, all right? Because it's understood that there's a 1 in front of this n. So, so the choices up here, right? They don't have it simplified completely. So we're just going to leave it like this, and we're going to erase this. We're just going to stop it right here because it's just much easier just to kind of leave it like this. And this is X equals M minus 2N over 2. All right, and not go any further with it than that. That is your answer. All right. Originally, I said there was 2 ways to do this, so I am going to show you that second way. So, in this way, you don't distribute, and you just cancel out. You divide by 2 because you want the 2's to cancel, and then you have X plus N just on this side, and you have M over 2 equals X plus N. Then to solve for X, you would minus N on both sides, and the way you would get it is that it's M over 2 minus N equals X. All right, so kind of this is the same thing as this, but the thing is this method here doesn't show you the reduced form of the answer, so I guess they would want you to do this way right here. Actually distribute, minus the 2n from both sides, then divide, and then at least you get to see this part right here, which is what they have as A. All right. Confusing question, but hopefully you kind of worked through it and understood what is going on. All right, so solve for X right here. Right, if you solve for X, remember you have to add that 5c. You have to get that 5c over to the other side and away from the 4x itself. So this cancels. You get 4x, and this is interesting. Don't forget, these are like terms. 5c plus 3c is 8c. Makes things a little bit easier. All right, so now all you have to do to solve for x is to actually just divide by 4. And then x equals, wait a minute, 8 over 4c, and I don't see that. 8 over 4c. But wait a minute, 8 divided by 4 is 2. So that is 2c, and that is I. Don't forget, usually they would have you divide, reduce, whatever, to get that answer. This case, they did tell you, all right, we have to divide. 8 divided by 4 is 2. All right, so now solve for x. Going to put my arrow, and I'm not going to touch this. It's a mess, right? But this negative d can be moved over to the other side by using the inverse of negative, which is positive. This cancels. You have a, b, x equals 5d plus d. 5d plus d is not 5d. 5d plus d is 6d. All right, and that is 6d. So we have to solve for x. The x is still here. Remember, I've been saying it a number of times. You divide by whatever it is that you need to cancel. And in this case, if you're solving for x, you need to cancel the a and the b. So that's what you're going to divide by. Very simple, right? So a, b, divide by a, b. This cancels, and we're going to move this down just a little bit. X equals 6d over a, b. Whew. Right? And that's E. (6d) over AB. And that is number 10. The last two problems are 11 and 12. Last two problems on this page right here is 11 and 12, and we can move on to the really difficult problems. All right, so go ahead, see if you can do both of these problems on your own. Press pause and try the problems now. All right, so here's the x. This is what we want to solve for. Pretty easy. We have this negative s, has to go to the other side. So opposite, inverse, operations, s and s. This cancels. You have 3x equals r plus s. We are going to divide by the number next to the variable. Whatever you need to cancel, that's what you divide by. X equals r plus s, or s plus r, over 3, and that is c. Hopefully you're okay with that. Oh, number 12. To get rid of a fraction, multiply by the reciprocal, right? Or you could divide by the coefficient. We ask you to multiply by the reciprocal because it's usually a faster way of doing things, but you could still just divide. But right now I'm going to show you two methods. I'm going to multiply, since I need this fraction to go away, cross-canceling. I am going to multiply each side by its reciprocal. So multiplying by its reciprocal, multiplying a fraction by the reciprocal will get everything, numerator and denominators, to cancel out. And you get solve for y. Y equals c times 4 is 4c. All right, and that's b. The other way of doing this, and I'm going to put it right over here, this is 1 over 4y equals c. I'll put this, the second method. when you divide, you're dividing by a lot of people like to just divide by the number that is next to the variable, which is the coefficient. That would cancel, and you would get y equals c divided by 1/4. Well, remember, keep, change, flip. Keep the c, change the division to multiplication, and flip the fraction. 4/1. So y equals 4c. Same thing. All right, so just either method, just get the answer. B is that choice that's there. Okay, so difficult problems here. We'll go through them step by step. Number 1, we have to solve each, and we have to solve this equation right here for x. So we have to solve for x. So I'm going to put that x right here. I'm going to put the little thing right here. All right, so I have x's on both sides. So I need to get the x's on one side. All right, so I am going to add nx and nx. Then I'm going to rewrite 2m. This cancels. Well, that's good. Equals, I love when things cancel, x plus nx plus 4. Okay, so I still need to solve for x, and you know what? I need to get that 4 over to the other side because I need the x's on one side, like kind of like alone together. All right, so I'm going to minus the 4 on both sides. And this cancels. So I have 2m minus 4 equals x plus nx. You see how I have the x's on one side now, and there's one less term that I have to worry about? Well, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. All right, and a lot of you probably don't or have never learned this, but it's called factoring. And when we factor out the like term, we factor it out. It's kind of like distributive property in reverse. And so we're going to take the like terms right here, a like term and a like term from these two right here, and factor it out. Kind of like it's going to look, when we're finished factoring, it's going to look like distributive property, right? It has to be performed. But it's in reverse, so we're not going to ever perform it because we have to figure out, all right, what factor, I'm going to put my parentheses, just like distributive property, what factor is common between these two? Well, if you said x, that's correct. So I'm going to factor out an x. And then I'm going to do distributive property. I'm going to ask myself, x times what equals x? X times what? What do I have to put here? Equals x. If you said 1, x times 1, that equals x. X times what equals nx? X times n equals 1x. Then I'm going to go like this, 2m minus 4. So here we go. I have to solve for x. So what do I do to get everything else to cancel except for the x? This is x times 1 plus n. What do I have to do on both sides to get the x alone? So if you said divide by 1 plus n, that is correct. 1 plus n. That's a whole term, right? It's x times 1 plus n. And what happens when we divide by 1 plus n? They cancel out here. And look what's left alone, the x. So the x is left alone here. So I'm going to bring that down, the equal sign down, and that is my answer. 2m minus 4 over 1 plus n. I'm going to say that's a tough one. I'm going to box out that answer because that is my answer. Right? And that is that. Okay, let's go to number 2. This is x over a minus 1 equals y over b. Solve for x, solving for x, which is here. So the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to add 1 on both sides. So I have x over a. This cancels, equals y over b plus 1. So I'm stuck. How do I get this a to go away? Right? Yes, if you're looking at this like division, all right, and you should be, you're going to multiply. And it's multiplying by the reciprocal. So it's a over 1. I'm not putting the 1. This is 1 over a. And this is a over 1. I'm not putting the 1. It doesn't matter. The 1's really, it doesn't do anything. But if I multiply this whole thing by a, I have to multiply this by a. All right. And remember, what we're going to use big parentheses and put the a. You can put the a over here or over there. When I rewrite it, I'll rewrite it correctly. Not that that's not correct. It's just that I'm going to cancel this out, and the 1 is kind of understood. So you have x equals, and I'm going to put the a in front, times y over b plus 1. Okay, and that is my answer for number 2. And that's it. Another tough question. All right, so number 3, and anytime that I start a problem, you can press pause, you can do the problem, try it on your own, and then come back and review. All right, press play, and once you're finished, and check your answer. So now that I said all that, I have to solve for h, and there's my h right there. Whoa, this is a lot here going on. If I have to solve for h, remember, I have to get rid of, and I'm looking at this 1/3. I need to get rid of that 1/3. That's what's bothering me the most. So I am going to multiply by 3. Multiply by 3. And that's a 3v. It's not, I'm just going to multiply by 3. All right, so this is 3v equals, and here we go. See this 3? See this 3? All right, it's 3 over 1. I'm multiplying by the reciprocal, but I'm not putting the 1. The 1's gone. All right, so look. If I put a 1 under here, that's gone too. All right, so the 1/3 is now gone, and now I have just pi r squared h. Is that a lot better? It is a lot better. All right, so here we go. I need the h alone, so I am going to divide. And when I do, I'm going to divide by whatever I need to cancel out. Pi r squared. Now, this cancels. This cancels. H is now left alone, which is what you needed. 3v over pi r squared. And that is it. That's your answer. I am going to box that out just so you understand that is your answer. You solved for H. You're finished. It's done. That's number 3. So number 4. Number 4. You have to solve for y. There's my y. So what do we do? Well, I'm not going to mess with that. I'm going to minus this ax. Minus the ax. This cancels. You have 2xy equals 14 minus ax. Whew. Solve for y right here. Remember, and this is going to come up a lot of times, what do we want to cancel? If you're saying you want to cancel a 2 and an x, that's correct. All right, so we are going to divide by the terms that we want to cancel. And we're going to divide by that on both sides. This cancels the 2, both 2's, the x's. Y comes down. The equal sign, 14 minus a over x, a times x, 2x. All right, so we will say, all right, that right there might be acceptable, but we are going to move that over. See if we can move this over. And we're going to try to reduce it further. So I'm going to rewrite it. Y equals 14 over 2x minus a x over 2x. So just take a look. 14 divided by 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7. But the x remains on the bottom as your denominator. Minus a. Nothing you can do with that. A over 2. You see the x's? They kind of cancel out there. Cancel. A x over x. So you could have this as your reduced answer. So either or. This is not reduced in the black, but this is in the red. All right, another difficult question. Let's go back up and talk about number 5. If you want to press pause, try the problem now, you can press pause. Right, so this is A equals f plus g over 2, all times h. You have to solve for g. So you have to get in there somehow into g. The first thing I see is that I want to get rid of this h. So it's being multiplied, so what do we do? So if you said divide by h, you are correct. Because I want this to cancel with this, and I just want that h out of there. So I'm going to rewrite a over h equals f plus g over 2. Now what? I want to get this 2 out of there. So I'm going to multiply by 2. Multiply by 2. It's kind of like doing the reciprocal because this cancels, this cancels. And on this side you have 2 times a, which is 2a, over h equals f plus g. Solve for g, minus f on both sides. And I'm going to have to move it over here. Moving it over here, and I'm going to rewrite 2a over h minus f, this cancels, equals g. And that is my answer. For this question. Alright, solved. You wanted to cancel that h out, you divided by h, you did that on both sides. You wanted to cancel the 2 out, you multiplied by 2, you did that on both sides. 2 times a is 2a, the h stays on the bottom as your denominator, and then you just subtract by f on both sides, and you get 2a over h minus f equals g. Number 6. Here we go. We want to solve for a. The a is in there. Okay. So, what do we do? Distribute? You wanna? I'm not going to distribute. Alright, you see this 2 times x plus a? I'm going to divide. I want that 2 out of there. So I want to get to the a. I'm going to divide. The 2's cancel. X plus a comes down. That's good. Equals 4 over 2b. That's 2b. Alright, 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then the b. That's it. Now, if I wanted to go ahead and see if I could solve for a, all I have to do is minus x on both sides. Cancel. A equals 2b minus x. Problem looked difficult, but it's not. It's not always going to be that you distribute all the time. Could you have done this with distributive property? Yes. But it's much faster this way. Dividing, getting rid of that 2 is definitely the way to go. We are going to move on. We're running a little bit long. Number 7. And then we do that challenge question. So we have to solve this for x, and x is right there. We want to get the b out of the way. And the way to get the b out of the way is to this division. Opposite division, multiplication. So I'm going to put a dot, put a b, dot, put a b. Okay, here we go. This cancels. I love when things cancel. B, y. I mean, it spells by, but whatever. By the c. I don't know. X minus v. Pretty good. All you have to do now is solve for x. Looked difficult, but it's, wow, really came out to be an easy question. Get the x alone. You take this v, the negative v, and add v on both sides. This cancels. You have b, y, plus v equals x. By the way, that's an easy question. Not bad. That is your answer. And it's solved for x. Right. So if you do want to go ahead and try this problem, go ahead and try it. Press pause and see if you can get that question, see if you get that answer. By the way, you solve for x. It's the same I'm not going to give you any hints. Go ahead, press pause, see if you can do it. Press pause, try the problem now. So, how'd you do? Okay, so you have to solve for x. First thing I'm going to do is put this right here. All right. I'll tell you the truth, I just want to get that xc alone. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to take this c right over here and subtract it. I want to get it to the other side. So we'll see if that helps at all. This cancels. S minus c equals x c. Still need to divide. I still need to get the x alone. And I gave away the next step. So I said divide. I'm not going to divide by x. I want the c to cancel. This cancels. So x equals s minus c divided by c. That is your answer. Or you put x equals sc minus c over c, and that would become x equaling sc minus 1. All right, so I just wanted to show you before we end this video. Okay, so I'm just going to rewrite this down here because I just want to show you how math is just could be done in so many different ways. But originally I was going to tell you to distribute, to factor out, right? And it's like kind of doing distributive property in reverse. So that factoring out here could happen because you have a c here, you have terms, and you have c right here. All right, so there's a common factor between these two terms. So what I wanted to tell you to do is to factor out the c and the c here, and that would leave c on the outside. C times what equals c? That's 1. And c times what equals xc? Well, c times x, right? So if you have s equals on this side, and then we wanted to solve for x, well, then I would just go, all right, if I wanted to solve for x, I'm just going to divide by c on both sides, and then this cancels, right? So then you have sc over here equals 1 plus x. And you see how easy it is? If you wanted to solve for x, you just minus 1 on both sides, and the 1's would cancel, and you would have s over c minus 1 equals x. Look, same thing. Two different ways. Like, this is another method, so I'm just going to put number 2. And obviously that second method, like, I don't expect people to actually do that. If you did, the first time I looked at this problem, I did want to use that factoring, and that's the way I was going to do it. And then I saw that it might be better just to subtract that c like we did up here. All right, hopefully that helped you out. If you have any questions, please don't feel free to email, text, do whatever you need to do. But hopefully that full video helped you out a lot. See you next time.